Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this week's episode of the SLY Guy podcast. Again, if you just want to like and subscribe and follow wherever it is you get it, it would mean the world to us and it would help the podcast. So all the links are in the description. I'll not go on about it any longer because without further ado, we have a guest with us today that we've been very excited about. Johnny over here, he can barely contain himself, and I am just not much better. So please welcome to the podcast, Mr. Steve Cavanagh. How are you?
Thanks very much for having me.
What do you think of that intro? That was hyped up.
That's great, yeah.
I was almost ready to get the cannon out, but do we have any more? We have like confetti cannons. We did that once after we took a break, and when we launched it, there's actually still little bits.
I can see confetti here, yeah.
Every so often you'll be in the middle of an episode and one sad seldom is confetti will lower itself down. Now, at the time we thought it was a great thing, but then about 7 months later, there's still bits everywhere, and it was a bollocks. I think it ruined what was it, a shark hoover? You know, they're very fancy. Ruined a shark hoover. Had to get the old trusty Henry out. It can take anything.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Henry
shark hoovers are prone to confetti problems.
Yeah, confetti. So if you're ever looking to have confetti cannon, don't go along with shark hoovers.
Okay.
I know you. Do you have a shark hoover yourself?
I have a shark. Yeah.
Yeah. See, I have a hoover. Do you have a tabletop one?
I used to have a Henry Hoover, but I think it asked too much of it. We've dogs, you see. And it just wasn't liking it at all. Henry was reaching the end of his rope.
Yeah.
So I thought we'll try the shark.
No, we had a Henry here that was my old trusted Henry that we actually keep in this studio because I can't bring myself to throw him out because he's so reliable when you need him. But we had a bit of work done in the house and there was like bits of like rubble and things about, and the shark couldn't deal with it. And I was like, well, I can't just be dusting this all up the dustpan and brush. That's a long job. So I said I'll give Henry a go. Wasn't fazed by it. Sorted. All the aggregate, everything else, stuff you should never be sucking, Henry's sucking.
Right.
And he takes it.
And looked happy while he was doing it.
Yeah, he was delighted. Had a great time. And when it came to confetti, so anytime you're struggling, he'll deal with it. But on a separate note, Shark, the table that we have won on top, it's the worst product I've ever got. So if anyone from Shark's listening, 8-minute battery life.
What?
On it. So crumbs, doesn't even suck crumbs anymore.
My
and
God.
it's got a super suction element that lasts, I'd say, 3 seconds. So you can go, and done.
Okay.
So listen, Shark, your main hoovers are good, but
This is a consumer advice section.
yes, this is it. This is the Martin Lewis element. But it's one of those things you never think about until you actually. I go to use it all the time, that wee table, and it just doesn't do it. And this is the problem with life, I find.
Right.
People see you do things and think this is what life is, but my day-to-day life is household issues that I have with product and maintenance and children. That's my day-to-day.
Oh, well, mine too. I'm mostly an Uber driver. I just drive children from various things to places, and I do a wee bit of writing on the side.
Mm-hmm. And do you still, this is the thing actually I wanted to ask you about that side of things. Do you find you still get time and headspace to write, or do you get your head away? Because the amount of times I try to do any work, sometimes I'll sit down and go, they've taken all the energy out of me today. I've nothing left.
Yes, this can happen. But I think ideally you should carve out a bit of time and say, okay, I'm writing from this time to that time, and that's my time. But, the world doesn't really agree with that, I don't think. And quite often, I'll need to take a dog to a vet or something like that will happen. And then, so I've learned to be flexible. And as long as I can carve out a couple of hours, and it's never a solid few hours, it's always, a dog will come in or a child or somebody will be at the door or something will happen. And then, so what I like to do when I get my best writing done is in cafes.
Okay.
I grab the laptop and I'll go and sit in a cafe and put down headphones, or sometimes don't need to, and just write away. I don't mind a bit of white noise. I don't need silence.
Yeah. See,
and then I can work that way.
See, I'm a big one for procrastinating and problems, and I think like for me to do anything, I like to have things a certain way. Now, other people will say that maybe there's underlying issues there you need to address, Dave. But like I have to have certain things that need to be tidy before I can get anything done. So do you ever have the best intentions and you're like, right, this is what I need to get done, and then when you sit there, you're like, it's not happening today.
Yeah, sometimes you don't. It doesn't work.
Just slightly closer to your face.
Okay, how's this? That better?
Perfect.
Yeah, sometimes distractions happen. I'll be writing something, I'll think, okay, I want to set a scene here in this street in New York. What's that look like? And I'll go and have a look on Google Maps. And then an hour later, I'm watching shark videos on YouTube. And I haven't done, just a rabbit hole opens up and I fall into it. And then, this happens. But, I try to train myself out of having a sort of a writing routine. Sometimes it's good. Like I used to have music I would play and listen to before I started writing. And I still have a playlist on Spotify. I put that on. It helps put my brain in the writing mode. But then other distractions come. But I'm not, it used to be there's some writers that have to have, like it used to be Michael Connolly, who wrote the Harry Bosch books. He could only write with like a lamp over his right shoulder and tea, and he still brews tea and drinks tea when he's writing, but it had to be like perfect conditions and perfect lighting and everything, and then he could write. And that's just putting your brain into, okay, this is what we do now, we need to make stuff up and get words down.
Because like I remember one of the earliest memories I had about authors was Roald Dahl had this room built out in his garden, and he used to almost be like a wee granny. He would go out there and he'd put like a wee blanket over himself, and he'd sharpen his pencils a certain way, and people would leave him, like I think that was his Sophie Dahl's granddaughter had said that her memories of him was like she would go out into the garden and like look through, and he'd be just sitting there feet up, and I was like, that sounds like a real boss way to write. Cup of tea, wee blanket, you know, it looks like the ticket.
That is the ticket, but I would fall asleep if I was doing that. I need to be sort of upright now on a computer, and sort of if I'm in a chair or I'm comfortable, I will fall asleep. That just happens to me.
I see. I just find like I don't have any respect in my house is what my problem is. So if I say to somebody, I think because my wife's a nurse, so for her, she has a real job with a real, place issue. So my kids are like, well, mummy's at work, or mummy's this or that, and they respect that. Whereas if I'm like, I need to go in here to do like a call or something, like I was on a Zoom the other day, and Matilda, my youngest, who's 5, came in and just like look at the screen going, and she's got into doing this for her eyebrows now. And I was like, yeah, you're okay. And she goes, I was like, I'm just working here, Beck. Can you give me 5 minutes? And she goes, no. I went, but can you just, she went, no. She goes, I'll just draw on your whiteboard. And I went, all right. So I'm there trying to be all serious, going, this is the meeting. And she's just there drawing me, of course, on the whiteboard and the only colour pens we have are black and red. So she just does a big black circle, beard, and then just colours the whole thing in bright red. So I'm there on this meeting trying to be professional whilst also looking like worrying about my own health, looking at this going, am I that red to you? Like I need to worry about my blood pressure here. It's just, it was a stress that you just don't need. And I find like I don't know what it'll happen to them to appreciate that I have to do any work ever. I just think I have to wait till I go to sleep, and that's when I got most of my my stuff
that's
done.
good. I used to, when I was working as a lawyer, I would write at night. Everyone would go to bed and I would start writing about 10 o'clock at night, and the house was quiet, and I got a lot of work done that way. But now I'm not in a real job and I'm writing. Then you have the other problem where people say, well sure, Steve's not working. And they'll ring me up and say, here, you come and help me move this sofa or something like this. You don't have they think you don't have a real job.
Yeah.
And in many ways, we don't have real jobs, do we? We're lucky that way.
Yeah.
You don't have to go and clock in and clock out.
But it's the fun of it too. I think like that's what I always like. I was quite surprised to hear before you'd written any of your books that you'd never been to New York.
Yeah.
Like I found like, because that's one of the things I think is like you really say you can imagine you being there. Like I was reading Across and see all the stuff, the descriptions of Dumbo and everything. Like we were there not long ago, and I was just like, it was like you're there, So to find out you hadn't been there, I was like, how did you get that world into your head before you had even been to places like that? Like, what was the process of that?
Well, you just sort of make it up as you go along.
Spoof it.
Yeah, spoof it. I'd written the first 3 Eddie Flynn books before I went to New York. And The Cross was one of them as well, maybe 4. I'd watched a lot of American TV, and I read American crime fiction, loads of it. So that American voice was in my head, so I can get away with that. But in terms of settings, I would just go read about a place, read books about a place, listen to people talking about places, and then you can look at photos and get an idea. And the thing is about writing about a place, as long as you can get a sense of it across to someone, then that's it, because everyone will have their own idea of what the place is like anyway. And you cheat with New York, because everyone, if you've been to New York or not, you have a mental image of what New York's like. You've seen Ghostbusters.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So you know what New York's like.
Yeah.
And all I have to do is tap into that sense of what the city's like. I don't have to spend pages and pages telling you what it's like.
Because I always think that's something I find, but with here, it's almost if you're starting anything, and you almost have to, you feel like you're obliged almost to set it here or write from here, or so almost it seems a wee bit alien to be like a Northern Irish writer or author and then just base something there. So to me, I thought it was quite a brave thing to do.
Oh yeah, well, stupid, foolish, maybe as well. But I had two examples. So there's an Irish writer, John Connolly, who's from Dublin, who writes the Charlie Parker series. They're all set in America. And Lee Child, who writes the Jack Reacher series, he's from Birmingham.
Oh, yeah.
And he got away with it. And I thought, well, if those two guys could do it, I could do it. And then I realised how hard it is and how much work it is.
Yeah.
But there was that precedent. If it hadn't been for those writers, I may not have tried it. But I didn't want to write about Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
Because at the time I was a lawyer working in Northern Ireland, and I didn't want to come home and write about another lawyer working in Northern Ireland. I had had enough of that during the day. So the writing was a bit of escapism, you know.
So you think that is the thing? Because to me, whenever you see, obviously, the work of a lawyer is a career in and of itself, and probably an all-encompassing career as well, which I would imagine would be hard to kind of decompress from if you've had a rough day. So did you find like it helped you kind of level out a bit by writing, or was that always something you had enjoyed doing before the law, or was that...
Well, no, I wrote, when I was about 18, I started writing and I wrote screenplays. And I did that for about 3 years. Managed to get an agent, but never got anything sold. And I thought, this is too hard. And sure, who's going to read a screenplay for me? I don't know anyone, and I've never done this before. So I stopped. And then when I was in my sort of early 30s, my mum passed away quite suddenly. And she was the only person who ever encouraged me to write. So I thought, well, I'm going to have a go at this. I'll write the type of book that she would have liked. Because she was giving me all the American crime fiction, because she loved it too. So I thought I'll have a go at this, and then I wrote the first book kind of for her. But yes, it was escape, because you're disappearing in a totally different world. You know, it didn't really help me deal with, you know, the grief or anything. I had to do that differently. I went to a grief counsellor, and I would recommend anyone who's struggling with that to do that. And she didn't really say anything or tell me anything really that helped, but she gave me a really good laugh. So this woman, I'll not mention her name, I was trying to talk to her about her, avoiding talking about anything that I'm there to really talk to the woman about. And so what do you do? Do you work during the day? And she said, yes, but I can't tell you what I do. I says, all right, were you a secret agent or something? She says, no, I said, don't tell people because it might upset them. I says, no, come on, I won't be upset. What do you do? And she says, well, I work in a funeral parlour. I said, well, that really struck me. I said, what? You ain't working a funeral parlour during the day with grieving relatives coming in and out, and then at night you counsel, you know, bury people. You like that kid from The Sixth Sense. I see dead people everywhere. So how do you deal with all that? She was the nicest, you know, most pleasant woman, and had no problem. But her day is surrounded by death, and I just thought, my God. You know, I'm all right. I can deal with this, okay? If that woman can deal with it, I'll be okay. And that helped me.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, that there must be... Maybe she just feels like that is a gift, that I have, that I can cope with this.
Yeah.
See, to me, I'd be crying.
I would be a mess, a total mess.
I'd be horrific. Because even when you see undertakers and stuff, you go, like, how could you...
How do you do that?
I'd be out having tea. Oh, my God, this is so awful.
There must be a real dark undertaker humour, I would say, that helps them through it. Because I know policemen and lawyers have that dark humour sometimes.
Yeah.
When they're dealing with terrible things, you have to kind of lighten it up a wee bit. From time to time.
They use the bodies as puppets.
Yeah.
To make funny dances.
Who knows? That's terrifying.
Because like I have a friend who courted his now wife by flirting with her with body parts in class at university. They were doing physiology, and he said like he would play pranks with her. Like he would go, oh, I've got a present for you, and she'd go put her hand out, and he would put like pubic hair that he'd cut off a cadaver, and I'm like, that's not really appropriate. He goes, you weren't there, I was flirting, you know. And
he said, flirting with
her. There was one time he put an arm up his sleeve and stroked her face. I was like, don't do that. Like that's weird. And he goes, well, serve me now, married now, you know, we're down the line. I was like, yeah, well, maybe you did an unorthodox approach, but fair play to you.
That's good. I'm sure the police are keeping that man under surveillance.
I'm going to say, watch him now. Yeah, definitely keep an eye on him for sure. But I remember Jordan Robinson, a comedian I'm friends with, he worked in Australia for a while as a like watchman at a morgue. So like his job was to make sure that whenever people were doing autopsies and things that they were okay.
Right.
Because apparently there are some people, like there was that guy who was, you heard of him like a year or two ago. He was found that he was working in a hospital and he was going into the morgues and violating the corpses on a regular basis, and then he had actually been found guilty of murdering 2 people years earlier.
My God.
So his justification was it was the dead bodies he had an interest in, and he
Right.
said that I probably would have killed more had I not have done this. So it was obviously that conundrum of you're going like, obviously what he did was completely horrific, but you know, was you know, people like morally, like would he have murdered more people had he not been doing this? But obviously
Yes.
what the thought of going to families about this, like, because they found, police went to investigate him because of the key card. They were like, you're a cleaner at a hospital, you're in the morgue a lot. And then they
Right.
checked footage and they found like they found semen on some of the bodies and it matched it up.
Oh my
And when they
God.
went to arrest him, he had like been filming himself doing it, and he had all this footage, and it was horrific. And then because of the semen on the bodies, they found the link to the other murders and got him in the end. But it was horrific, and they had to go through to all the families to be like, yeah, this guy has interfered. You know, it was horrific. It was a real one of the most disgusting cases that I've seen in criminology, like, and it was horrendous. But he was just like, well, I mean, at least it wasn't killing people. You're like, no, that's not the point.
No.
You know, that's
No.
not the point.
No, I
Yeah.
wouldn't say that to the judge. I wouldn't open with that to the
No.
judge and say, well, you know, in fairness, Your Honour, you know, he may have killed a lot more people if he hadn't have interfered with these corpses.
Yeah, and then the judge is not going to. Actually, no, you put it like
Yeah,
that.
you put it
Yeah,
like
fair
that,
play,
yeah,
mate.
yeah, I
fair
understand
play.
that.
Yeah, but that was a real grim one. But Jordan said he was there, just like, you know, and I said to him, like, did you ever have any crack? And he said the odd time I go away. You know, people, hey, watch.
Does Jordan not do a graveyard tour at the minute as well?
Yeah.
He's another guy.
He's another guy.
Yeah. This sounds like it's going to be like a Louis Theroux type thing. Just people are obsessed with death. Yeah, but he does graveyard tours, and he does like historical tours and stuff now
Right.
around Belfast. Jordan's a great guy, but that I just said, like, how could you, like, I said, like, how could you have your lunch? You know, like, how could you have a lunch break and just looking through his glass, being like, don't worry, I'm having a ploughman's here, but you work away, you know?
My God. Yeah,
It's
no,
so
I
weird.
wouldn't. Although in some ways you might say, you know, night watchman in a morgue, it might be sweet enough. There's not, you know, you're not going to get customer complaints, really, are
No.
you? You know.
Yeah, but then don't they say that the bodies can sometimes, like, expel air? And see,
Yes.
even I would just be like, no, not for me.
No.
I'm
It's
not
like the
here.
opening of a horror movie, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
There's a good story there, night watchman in a morgue.
Yeah, it's very, like, but that's it. I think that's part of sort of the thing. I've always had a bit of a morbid curiosity in things, and I remember, like, some of my earliest memories of being really interested in anything was my aunt. I now know she was telling me the story of Halloween,
Right.
of Michael Myers. She's like, this guy escaped from a mental hospital and he's running about, and I believe that was happening in Belfast. And I remember being fascinated by, like, the Silence of the Lambs and all that. And
Yeah.
that's initially I did a degree in criminology in the end,
Right.
because I thought, and this is how naive you are as a kid, I thought, you know what, I could be like a Northern Irish Clarice, you know. So and then people were like, and I think crimes here are a bit less, you know. It's more like, and I'm like, yeah, you probably just get terrorism when you paramilitary.
If you're a serial killer, you know, there are
Yeah.
various groups, you know, you
Exactly.
can join, and, you know, there's a career path.
Exactly, you know what I mean? And they don't really like to tar you as a serial killer. Like, no, he's just part of a gang, it's okay.
Yeah.
And I was like, nah, this wouldn't be as interesting. So then when I did that, I realised, no, the career path wouldn't be maybe that. So now I do this, which is very different.
Making people laugh.
Yeah, making people
Finding
laugh.
killers.
Yeah, but I love it. And again, this sort of thing, like, I could chat to you about the law side all day, just and has there been anything, like, even wee bits? Because I sometimes like if I'm ever putting stuff together, I would have taken maybe from my old job here there we true life experiences, because there's a couple that are really, I think I've said this a million times, but long story short, someone was killing animals in the back garden. I went out to the guy to be like, what's going on? Because this woman on the phone, it was a halal butcher. He had just moved into the house and was like, I thought I could do this. I'm like, no, he's just slaughtering goats in his backyard.
Oh
and
my God.
this 5-year-old girl's looking out her bedroom window, you know, and I thought there's humour in that
Yeah.
somewhere. So
Yeah.
I've written that into something, you know. But has there ever been anything where you're there going, like, if you were writing, I suppose at the time maybe as a hobby when you were practicing law, was there ever something you've gone, oh, that'll do well in that'll do me there this wee hook? Or are you allowed to say if it was?
Sometimes I've sort of thought that, and then I've thought, no one would really believe me.
Mm-hmm.
This is just all too completely out there and totally mad. Because true life is much stranger than fiction.
Yeah.
Fiction has to make sense,
Uh-huh.
whereas you've got crazy people out there doing crazy stuff for crazy reasons. Like we had a client once, for example, who caused a lot of problems, but he was arrested. He would be arrested, 2 or 3 times a week, at least, and I had to go down to various police stations and get him out, and But the thing was, he was always arrested for the same thing: it was theft of lasagna. We used to call him Garfield.
I was going to say.
But and what would happen is then that we'd put him on 28-day charge or something like that, or he would be bailed for further inquiries. Police would go to get all the statements from the shops and everything, and then he would get a summons. And the police would build up half a dozen of these, and he'd get 12 summonses, and they'd come into us. And then you're faced with this terrible dilemma of you're trying to talk to him and say, right, what are we doing here? There's 12 separate accounts of theft of lasagna from various shops in different places. And he says, well, I didn't do that one, I did that one, but I didn't do this one. And, so I'm talking to the prosecutor and saying, well, look, some of these he's pleading to and some he's fighting. But the thing was, the prosecutor didn't have enough information about all of this. So we went to the judge, and the judge is saying, he's reading out the charges: theft of lasagna on the 21st of July, and theft of lasagna. And the judge's like, your client really likes lasagna. And I said, I can't comment, Your Worship. And then the prosecutor got totally confused and couldn't work out what ones he was pleading to and what ones he was fighting, and the whole thing got confused, and they ended up throwing the whole thing out. So that can happen.
But see that too. You wonder how something like that gets to there.
Yeah,
because it would bamboozle you.
Well, but there's no talking to people. We had a client who would come in and see us, and people often say law enforcement can be mental health type officers and things like this, and we would have a bit of that as well. So this client came in and said he had a letter. He hadn't been paying. He had a drug problem. Yeah, and he hadn't been paying lots of things, and bills mounting up. And he came in and we were helping him out and saying, okay, well, look, you have to pay your electric bill here, that's serious. He says, oh, no, can't do that because I have to pay my Sky TV. Yeah. I can't be without my Sky TV. And it had not occurred to this man, if the electric's cut off, there's no Sky TV. And when we told him this, his mind was completely blown. Yeah. But you can't put any of that in a book. Because people would say, well, that would never happen.
Yeah, and I think that was always the fun thing was, whenever you're dealing with certain members of the public, was there's times where you're going, is my brain, am I wrong here? Because they're presenting something so logically to them, but you're going, because I had a guy he was sunbathing naked on a roof, basically, was the gist. Right. And he genuinely said to me, but I said, could you not do it in your back garden? He went, well, I'm closer to the sun there, get a better tan. And I remember looking at him going, okay.
There's no argument for that, really. There's nothing you can say there.
No. Is that classed as public indecency then? If he's on his roof?
Yeah, because the roof's like that, and there's loads of other houses there. You can see.
Exactly. Yeah. If you're in public and you can't be seen, that's pretty much public nudity.
And there were so many different characters that you. And again, one of the biggest things that always hit me was you go out into the community, you don't know these people are existing. And you don't know the stuff's going on. It's going on.
You've no idea. And it's a totally different world.
Oh, it's and then you're there going, I'm trying to talk to people how things would normally be considered, but to them it's no, this is their world. I remember there was a couple once in East Belfast, and they'd be fond of the gear. I would say it's probably a diplomatic way to put it. And the same sort of couples. They love each other, but they're so volatile and they fight and this. And basically, this couple was out one day painting the house, but their house is a terrace house, and they're painting the house, and they're painting the lampposts, and they're painting the curbstones, and they're painting the road. And they're like, can you go out and tell them to stop painting everything? So I went out, and I remember the woman and she kept calling me Angel Dust as a name, as a cute name, and I remember her going, that's a weird thing to be called. She's like, listen, I'm sorry, Angel Dust, I had no idea. And then I was like, right, okay, could you just paint it? And I went out and I was like, I don't really think there's a lot you can do here. Don't be painting. And she goes, we'll paint over it, we'll get darker paint. And I was like, just maybe leave it and we'll get someone out to hose it down or whatever. And then she went, okay, that's fair enough. So by the time I'd gone, this is just in East Belfast, so by the time I'd gone from East Belfast, driven into the city centre, it's probably a 5-minute drive. By the time I'm there, the phone's gone again. The two of them have fallen out over cleaning up the paint, and I've ended up having a digging match in the street, throwing paint on each other. So now street's going on, and then people trying to break it up. There's people, I'm going, I just don't know. And they're all going, it's my fault, because if he hadn't made us do that, I don't know. So then by the time I'm in, I have to go back and you tie in the police and all. It's just mad. It's just mad. And then you're going, there's other things going on here that people could be dealing with like this sort of madness. And it just, and then again, I find like the thought of, obviously, I'm sure you've had some things come in front of you that it would be very difficult to keep a straight face while dealing with.
Yes. You do have to, sometimes bite the lip. And like I remember one, there was a father and son who kept falling out, and they fell out badly. And they lived in the same street as the police station. So the police could be sitting in the canteen having a cup of tea and just look out the window, because they were always fighting out in the street. But this one got bad, and the son was chased down the street. The father was chasing him allegedly chasing him with a kitchen knife, going to stab him. And the police came. I thought, well, actually, we better do something there. Yeah. Put down the tea and biscuits. Let's go and they arrested him and stuff. And I was in the interview with him and. So you chased this man down the road. I said, no, I didn't chase him. I didn't chase him at all. I said, you had this knife. We've got the knife here. And they brought out this exhibit box, cardboard box, with this kitchen knife with a white handle. That's the knife we lifted from your house. Your fingerprints are on it. You were chasing him down the street with that. No, not that one. No, I never would ever do that. He's my son. I love him. Great. Okay. Interview adjourned. Having a client consultation, I was thinking, okay, well, maybe there's a contest here. There's a fight to be had about this. This man's denying it. And he said to me, the police are fitting me up. The knife I chased him with had a black handle. And I go, oh, for God's sake. That's because that's the thing as well. The books I write, and the villains and, Hannibal Lecter and all, they're all very clever. Whereas most criminals are really not clever at all, had one, and I love reading the witness statements. There was a guy who was rehomed after being in prison and moved into an address, and going to the corner shop every day to buy noodles, loved a certain type of noodles, get these noodles, and then running low on money one day, went in and with a balaclava on, to rob the place, but couldn't resist getting 6 packs of noodles when he was there. So much so that the shopkeeper said, is that you, Bobby? Yeah. And he went, no, it's somebody else. And I'm thinking, what a brilliant line. It's somebody else. Yeah. It's a classic one.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am delighted to interrupt the podcast to tell you that I'm going on tour at the end of August through to October 2026 with my brand new show, Obsessed. Are you obsessed with stuff? I'm obsessed with stuff, and I want to tell you all about it on this brand new hour of stand-up comedy. Tickets are available now via my website, daveelliottcomedy.com, wherever it is you want to see me. I'm going all over. I'm UK, Ireland, Northern Ireland, the works. See where you want to see me and come. I'm keeping the tickets at a pretty low price too, because I'm a sound guy. I want you to get a night out. Don't worry about the babysitter. Don't worry about whatever else. You'll have change out of the tickets to come and see my show, so get the babysitters, get in. Let's have a night of it, and let's enjoy watching what I'm obsessed about. Alright? Now, go and listen to my podcast for a bit. Listen, if you think this podcast is fun, you can have even more. Can we say X-rated, Johnny? X-rated, extreme, and just off the record content over at patreon.com/Sly Guy Podcast. You get the extra Sly Guy Podcast. You get the continuation of this episode, the Slyer Guy Podcast. You get the friggin' Dog Walks with Dave. You get vlogs. We've vlogs coming. Johnny, London, Lisbon, Barcelona, all going to be up there within the next... How long? What's the time scale?
The next coming couple
the
couple
next coming couple of times. Patreon.com/Sly Guy Podcast. For that, that's £2 a month. Go on. What are you waiting for? Because I remember reading about a case. It was one of the funniest. There was a robbery, I think, on the Shankill, and these two people were doing it. Two fellas in the car. The balaclava's out, and one of the fellas is alleged to have said, the guy goes, right, I'll go in and do robbery. I got you burn the car. That's it. And he goes, dead on. So the guy goes out, robs the post office, comes out, car's exactly where it was, on fire, the man's running down the street. And he's like, he just heard, said the car on fire, does it, and that's it. And you're just going, then you see the mugshots and you go, what a dick. And you'd be so raging.
You see, the crime doesn't pay. We had a guy who, his brother pulled this scam. He had bought a big TV from Dixon's or somewhere, which was like 500 quid, and got it insured. And then he got his mate, his brother, to come round and put a brick through the window, and TV gone. TV's really in his mate's attic.
Yeah.
You know, phones the police, they come out and say, all right, fair enough, TV's go away. They'll fill out the form, and there you go, claim the money off the insurance. TV comes back, happy days.
Yeah.
So his mate says, well, look, I'm going to do this. So he phoned up a gentleman which we came to represent. We'll call him Bobby again, that's not his real name. And he says, look, come up and I want to talk to you about this. So Bobby goes up to meet him. He says, right, I'll give you 100 quid. You come round next week, next Thursday night, put a brick through the window, take the TV away. I'll phone the police, they'll come out and I'll get a crime report number and stuff, and then I go to the insurance company and I'll get my insurance money for the TV. You bring the TV back? There's no problem, that's dead on. So it gives him 100 quid, and he then goes to the pub with 100 quid. Bobby drinks his 100 quid and thinks, while I'm here, I may as well just do this now. So he goes to the guy's house, puts a brick through the window, and the guy's sitting watching, X Factor with his missus, and a brick comes through the window. And he thinks it's a paramilitary attack. So he runs out the back door, climbs up onto the shed, falls and breaks his hip. And his missus is in there, and she's screaming the place down. And our client Bobby just climbs through the window, and the problem was the TV was mounted above the fireplace. So he said, love, you got a screwdriver and get this TV off the wall. And the police are called. So, there's no real geniuses in crime.
No.
It all sort of works out,
Horses and horses.
Yeah. It
really is.
Yeah. Oh, my days.
But the scary thing is there are some criminals who are very devious and very, very clever. Like you were talking about, Clarice Starling and FBI profiling. I wrote a book. I wanted to write about profilers, and I didn't really know, other than that and other novels I've read, how does this work? What is a profiler and what do they do? And then I did a load of research. I spent about 2 months researching it, only to come to the conclusion that it doesn't work at all. Profiling is a real terrible game. So they've said that of the 50 sort of cases where they use profilers, and these are like well-known famous cases, the profile resulted in them finding the criminal one time.
Oh, wow.
Whereas because of the profile that they'd written about the person, they let the guilty party go free about half a dozen times. So, for example, they'll go to a crime scene and they'll think, okay, who could have done this? And it's not a psychologist doing it. It's some cop who's had half a day's training on how to interpret a murder scene and why was this person murdered and who could have done it, and they'll write a profile. For example, the Washington sniper was caught. They had him 3 times and let him go because he didn't fit the profile that the FBI had written for him. So it's a very difficult job to do. You're trying to guess things, but it all comes from a case that was done in the 50s about this guy who was bombing New York. And he was bombing this particular company all the time. And they went to a psychologist and said, look, obviously this person has a problem with this particular company. And it was a manufacturing company. But he was bombing Radio City Music Hall and very famous places. Wasn't injuring anyone, but the potential was there for someone to be injured. He says, well, who could have done this? And they gave the psychologist all the information. And the psychologist said, well, he's roughly this age. I can't tell you too much more about him, but when you find him, he'll be wearing a 3-piece suit and double-breasted suit. And I sort of went, what? Really? So, yeah, that'll be him. So they did eventually find him. So what it was a disgruntled ex-employee of the company. And the company, he had been badly injured in the warehouse. And the company had hid his personnel records because they didn't want anyone to know that lots of their employees were getting badly hurt. So what they did was then they eventually released, there was someone who worked in their HR department eventually said, no one's shown the cops these files, and gave the files to the cops, and then they found this guy. And they knocked on his front door. He opened it. Now, he was in his pajamas. Said, right, you're the bomber. We know your handwriting matches the handwriting of the letters. And he went, okay, yeah, you got me. Can I just go and get dressed before you take me in? And I went, okay. And he came down, a 3-piece, double-breasted suit.
And just from that, they're like...
From that, this works.
Yeah.
But it's no great psychological insight. The thing was, this happened in the 50s.
Yeah.
This guy had been let go in around the 40s. And the fashion at the time was 3-piece double-breasted suits.
Yeah.
By the time in the 50s and 60s, everyone in America is wearing really sharp, single-breasted suits.
Yeah.
I thought, this guy hasn't worked for a while. He's not going to have bought a new suit. And that's
See,
how he worked it out.
And see, I that's one thing that I can't get my head around is the profiling of it, because it is just narrowing something down, isn't it? And
it is.
And if you're an intelligent criminal, you'll be looking at and how people profile and do something different, would you not?
You don't even need to be intelligent. No. So the FBI changed their whole profiling system in the 90s because this really isn't working. So they come up with like a decision tree thing. So they'll look at the crime scene and, for example, the first sort of tree that they create and branch of the tree is whether or not the body has been moved. And they came up with this whole thing. They interviewed about 80 known serial killers who were caught and profiled all of them and their personalities and everything. And they came up with this thing. And it's sort of like, if the body's moved, okay, you're off to the right here. There's a 60% chance either this person served in the military or have family in the military. And that's because they've profiled all these people who have this, and they did move the bodies. And then they'll eventually, you follow this decision tree about where was the body found, was the person an isolated person or whatever, or and was there much blood, what weapon was used, all of this, and it'll eventually come to a profile. The only problem is, well, there's a couple of problems. Number one, they got all this information from known serial killers. Yeah. That they've caught. And of course, serial killers are very reliable and will always tell the police the truth. And
honest guys.
Second problem is they publish this thing on the website. So if you're a killer, it's only you can go and read it on the FBI website now. If you're a killer and you want to be caught, you don't want to be caught. You're sort of thinking, well, if I do this, and this, they'll think it's someone completely different. Yeah.
It's just it is baffling. And again, all the case I always look back on and I go, is Bin Laden, because he was in his house. So after everything, they're like, he must be in Afghanistan in the hills, and they're like, where do you go? He's just in his gaff in Pakistan. Like, surely the first place you go is knock his door and go, are you, But and then whenever I hear that, and you go, it was the 90s. I'm thinking, did someone watch Silence of the Lambs and go, what we'll do? We'll go for the real life. We'll find the Hannibal Lecters. We'll get them together and ask them. And it always seems to be like something. They never seem to get the first person straight away. Like for well-known cases, like with wasn't it the Gilgo Beach killer recently? It took him years and years, and he was an old an elderly man, and I don't know what exactly was the thing that got him, but the same with Gary Ridgway, the Green River killer. He was away for years, and it was just
DNA and luck,
just a little bit of fluke and DNA,
and Ridgway's not a smart guy. He was by any means a very stupid and obviously evil individual, but he was no genius. Yeah, but I think it's the thing I find is it's the psychosis of it, whereby you can go and do all these horrific things and then go and have your Sunday dinner with your family in the church. Like Dennis Rader, wasn't it? He got caught from a floppy disk and something like that. And you just go, he was an elder in the church, and you're going, how can you do these? He's a BTK killer, and how you get away with all that? And you go, it's mad that you can just go to. Like I couldn't walk back to my house if I'd done anything. If I'd done anything, even if I accidentally don't scan something in the self-checkout. Exactly.
I'm panicking, but these guys will just be like, oh well, there you go.
Yeah, there's a sneaky bounty bar here I haven't paid for it. It's burning a hole in my soul.
Yeah, but these guys are just like, sure, don't worry.
They don't have a conscience. They don't think the same way as we do. Yeah,
and that's the thing. I like these things you see on YouTube now, videos where people talk to diagnosed psychopaths, and they aren't necessarily doing anything with it. They're not using their superpower wisely, but they're just going, no, I wouldn't. How do you feel about this? And you're like, I just don't. And it's a weird thing to just be like, oh wow, there's no empathy at all in it. And I think the biggest problem we always have as I suppose regular people is you look at others and go, this is how I would react in that scenario, and you can't see just people wouldn't. you know, and I think
Yeah.
that's where maybe the fascination comes with serial killers or people do horrific crimes, is you're going to yourself, in what world do they think that's okay?
It's the same world that you know, people who are the CEOs of the big Fortune 500 companies, vast majority of them are psychopaths too. If you read John Ronson's A Psychopath Test, there's a very easy test you can do to tell if you're a psychopath. And the first one is, if you're thinking, oh, I'm worried I might be a psychopath, that usually means you're not a psychopath. That's a good sign.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I'm not saying that flippantly. Most
Yeah.
CEOs are psychopaths.
Yeah.
Because they don't care. They've got to that position because they don't care about anybody else. They're just looking out for number one, and what do I need to do to get to this position, and I don't care about anything else.
And I
They
think,
just care about their shareholder value.
yeah, and I think that's probably a lot of sort of really successful people to an extent, because you'd probably need that element of, you know, this behaviour might cause upset to others.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, well, you know. Certainly
Exactly. They don't care.
Yeah. As
Doesn't
long as
even
they're.
occur to them. They go, oh, well, it's just,
Yeah.
well, why should I care about that?
Yeah.
That's, you know, that's why you get people like Elon Musk.
Yeah. Sure, there was a thing about him, wasn't there, that his assistant would ask for a holiday and he had to do the work that she did for a week or something, and then when she came back from holiday, he's like, you're sacked, I can do it myself.
Yeah.
And there was no like, oh, but no, he's just like, no.
He sacks thousands and thousands and thousands of people.
Yeah, and I think now, and this is why I think for years you see these the likes of the Elon Musk of the world, they keep their business, and you just see them as maybe, you know, figurehead CEOs. You don't see them with their opinions and their thoughts on Twitter and on social media.
Yes.
Whereas he's putting stuff out, you're going, this guy is
Yes.
a complete nutcase. You know,
He is.
he's wild.
He is. And might be, I sort of wonder, is he a Nazi? He seems to support lots of, you know, neo-Nazis. And
Yeah, and
I don't think he is a Nazi, because the Nazis made very reliable cars.
Yeah, that's true. Say what you want about them.
Say what you want
Yeah.
about them. You know, a couple of really nice Mercedes.
And also very fashionable, and his fashion sense is a
Yeah.
little bit off too. You know, those.
Exactly. Yeah.
But-
Hugo Boss designed
Yeah.
all their uniforms.
Yeah, like that must be the greatest comeback in history.
Boss?
Hugo Boss, to still people want to buy them. To be like, listen,
know.
You know, the Nazi did horrible things, but they look good doing it.
Well, once they stopped putting the skull and crossbones
Yeah.
on the hats,
That was a good rebrand.
helped.
Yeah, that was a good
that was
rebrand. Yeah.
But see, with Volkswagen,
Uh-huh.
you know, there was a whole thing about the Beetle. The Beetle was the Nazi, going to be the Nazi car, the right car. So if you worked in Nazi Germany, you paid a certain percentage of your wage packet every week, and you got a coupon. And when you filled your coupon book, you got a new Beetle. It wasn't called a Beetle then, but it was a Volkswagen Beetle.
Yeah.
And everyone thought, brilliant, I'm going to do this. And they were building all over Germany these, you know, like almost like, you know, Nazi center parks.
Yeah.
And where you can go with a, you know, in your new car.
Yeah.
But, of course, you know, Hitler sort of said, well, hang on a minute. Let's invade, you know, Poland and different places, and see all that money that you paid into us for your new car. We need that for the war. Sorry.
Yeah.
So he made half a dozen. And then they found the prototypes of the Beetle and built them subsequently. But the Beetle became like a big 60s hippie car and totally rebranded it.
Yes, I mean, the hippie is very much the quintessential opposite of a Nazi, really, isn't it? It's
Exactly.
exactly.
The beach buggy's based
Yeah,
on the Beetle.
I think you wouldn't see the sort of hippie movement hand in hand with the Hitler movement.
There's
at
no
all.
far-right hippie movement.
No. Maybe that's why the Beetle was sort of always quite a bright coloured car and quite.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. See, there you go. I love stories like that where you find where things come from, and you go, that's not exactly where you would have thought.
No. I
No.
love that. I love all that too.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just thinking, you probably wouldn't get away with the Nazi centre parks at all. No.
Well, you know, I'm sure in certain parts of the world, certain people, you know, be quite happy with that.
Yeah.
You know,
I went to visit Poland there last year and did went to visit the camps, and not a fun time.
No, my daughter went as well, and it was very, you know.
Yeah, it was.
But she was surprised as well. There's a gift shop at Auschwitz,
Yeah.
which she couldn't really, and I still can't really get my head around. But
Yeah. No, what I will say, it's mostly just books.
oh, right, okay,
Yeah,
well that's good.
So it's not like they're not being like
They're no
you're not getting
keyrings.
rubbers or those highlighters with the 4 different colours on them.
Yeah.
With just the Auschwitz
It's tasteful.
fence on it. Yeah, it's but
But it's a brilliant thing to preserve that, so people know
Yeah.
that this is what happened, and for God's sake, this can never happen
But
again.
the biggest, I think, and it's again that thing. See, when you know what to expect, and again, I've always had a it's a morbid fascination again into that, how anyone ever got to the point where they thought this was in any way acceptable. And I knew that you would see the shoes, and I knew you would see the hair and things. I was expecting that, but it was the scale of Birkenau, which was the thing that blew my mind. It was just as far as the eye could see, and you're like, this has only been made to kill people. And even like I don't think I've ever seen a space. Like I've been to the Maze prison and I've seen it, and I've gone, it was quite big, but this is maybe like, you're talking 10, 20 times the size, just as far as the eye can see, of just mass industrialized murder, and it's crazy,
terrifying.
It was, and to think that there's elements of that still happening today, it's horrific.
I know, it's all mad to me. I still don't understand, but it's just there's so much misinformation out today, and AI and all of that none of that helps. No one really knows what the truth, and that's why it's so important to keep all of that. So people know. But that,
as you know, in all seriousness, I am an ambassador for Action Mental Health. I think it's such a massive, important cause, and I also think that the funding has been cancelled for mental health services in Northern Ireland, and that's an absolute travesty. But thankfully this year, I don't have to sacrifice my bum like I did last year when I cycled 300 miles in 3 days for the cause. That's what it means to me. So if you want to support Action Mental Health and have a laugh with it as well, we are doing 3 shows in May this year for Action Mental Health. Friday, the 17th of May, we are in the Millennium Forum in Derry/Londonderry. I don't know why people still argue over that. It's 2026, get over it. And on the 29th and 30th, we are in Belfast at the Mac. We have some of the biggest comedians in the country. Not only the north of Ireland, the south of Ireland, Northern Ireland, the Republic, whatever. They're all coming up together. We have Chris Kent, Andrew Ryan, Emma Doran, Mickey Bartlett, me, Rory Woods, Eamon Maguire, Dylan Doherty, Sean Haggerty, and more across the nights. And it's going to be Aaron Butler and too many people, but we're doing it for a good cause. Action Mental Health. Tickets are on sale now. Not a load left for the Belfast gigs. People in Derry, do better. Care more about mental health. Tickets are available via the link below. Thank you, and get back to the podcast. Over. Guys, sorry to interrupt this week's podcast. I know you're having a great time, but I just need to tell you about Omnia Wellness. Omnia Wellness are the people keeping me on track with my health and fitness journey. Hate that word. Love the process. They're getting me 101 training advice, nutrition advice, and medicated help with my weight loss. I'm taking Manjaro. I feel good. I'm at the gym most days. I'm just feeling great. I've lost about 12 to 15 kilograms, give or take. It wavers, but I'm feeling great at the minute. If you want to feel great too, and you want to see what options Omnia Wellness offer, head over to their website now, www.omniawellness.co.uk, or if you just want to follow the link in the description of this podcast, that'll get you straight there. See what it is you want, whether it's one-on-one nutritional advice, training advice, Medicaid support, whatever it is, any program that you need, you can check out their website and see what is tailored to yourself. And if you don't want to pay full price, you want to be 20% off, I've got you. The discount code SLY 20%, that's the bottom of the screen there, SLY 20% at the checkout, whatever it is you're purchasing from Omnia Wellness. Anyway, let me take you straight back to this week's episode of the Sly Guy podcast with Steve Cavanagh.
Did you see the movie? It was a Jesse Eisenberg film with Kieran Culkin in called The Real Pain.
No.
I really enjoyed that.
What I'm going to say to you about this, I watched it 2 nights ago.
Right,
and
did
I
you?
thought it was really, really good.
It's brilliant. It's really funny.
And
but they're going on a tour of,
and it was
in Poland.
And there was a Majewicz or something, the camp. That's I probably butchered that name, but it was that to me, that's the sort of comedies I really enjoy. Ones there's a bit of heart to them, but also there's and obviously the Kieran, without giving too much away, the Kieran Culkin character obviously had a really tough time himself and was masking it with his kind of behaviour. But the fact that was said amongst like the thing on the train was really funny in the first class.
Yes.
And he was like, do you not think as Jewish people being on a train in first, do you not see the problem with this? And they were like, well, no. And he was like, I'm going to sit and coach. I can't cope. It was really great, and I liked how it ended too. It just kind of went, and you can take your own. But that was a great.
That was great. You should really make more films like that. I loved that. It was really good.
And but that was one of the fun bits about being in Krakow. Apart from the sad parts, was we were just walking this alleyway, and we're like, is it? And we're like, is this in Schindler's List? Where the wee boy hides on the stairs and all? And then we walked to them, and it was, and there was a wee plaque up about it, and there was a photo, and I was like, we're just here, and it was very like hipster down there. I was like, this is just cool, you're just on a set, and you're like, this is mad. And I actually think we went to Schindler's Factory the day we got to Krakow, and I'll be honest with you, Steve, I was a bit tired.
I'm
You
sure
know,
you
so it didn't get the full effect because it was like I want to get into this more, but at the same time I'm really tired and need to go to
Exactly.
sleep. And I felt really guilty about that because I watched it again after, and I went, I should have watched that before I went.
Yeah.
Really. But then the camps were just.
Stuart Lee does a bit about that. He in his latest stand-up thing. I'm a big Stuart Lee fan.
Mm-hmm.
He says, you know, if he's touring around, there are people who say, "Oh, Stuart Lee's coming. You should go and see him."
Yeah.
And he says that's the should go and see him is very much like, you know, when you're on holiday and there's some, you know, horrible war atrocity site that you have. It's you should go and see that. Really, so that's the way people talk about my comedy. So
Yeah.
you really should go and see it. You know, you don't really want to, but you probably should.
Yeah. No, he is brilliant, but then no one's saying you should go and see me. No one's like, no one's going, you should go and see this guy. Yeah. But no, surely I saw him do a work in progress at the Edinburgh Fringe a few years back, and see just being in a pub watching him do it, you're like, this is great.
Oh yeah.
You know, and he's a weird one as a comedian to like, because I think he can be very much like anti a lot of other mainstream comedians, and people are like, oh. And also if you say you like Stuart Lee, people go, oh, you like Stuart Lee, do you? Oh, look at you, you're so smart.
Yes.
I'm like, no, if he's funny and all, they're like, oh, look at you, you think you're this that. But I do genuinely really like him, and I think like one of his bits about how it's online, it's a clip he does about the designated roasting lamppost. Have you seen that?
No.
There's a thing about, he's talking all about all these comments about what should happen to terrorists of 9/11, and it's one of the funniest, most contrite bits I've ever seen in my life. It's about, and he's just breaking down how what somebody has said in the comment doesn't make any sense. He basically says they should tie up a terrorist on a lamppost and roast them. And he's like, but what lamppost? Like the designated corpse roasting lamppost.
Yeah.
And it's so funny. It's one of my favourite bits. And but then again, you do say that, people are like, oh yeah, you like, and you're like, yeah, but also I do like Michael McIntyre too. Like, and you're like, yeah, I can't like them both. And which I think for a comedy is always quite funny, because people.
We went to see Michael McIntyre at the Waterfront, and we had to walk out. We left with half the audience. This was a lot of years ago. Yeah. But it was when he was big, and it was the time when people were still buying DVDs, comedy DVDs, and at Christmas you would get, there's a comedy DVD. And we had watched it and stuff, and then a couple of weeks later we went to see him, and he did like 5 minutes of Belfast and put on a Belfast accent in front of a Belfast crowd.
Who, Michael McIntyre?
Yeah. And it was all right, but it was a wee bit, okay. You could see a few people weren't happy about it. And then he just basically did the DVD and stopped about 20 minutes in and said, if you've seen my DVD, you've seen everything I'm going to do. Don't be annoyed about it. And then just did it. And everyone was going, oh, it's nothing. I've seen it before. Yeah. And he's kind of taking the piss out of us, and loads of people left.
See, because that's the thing.
But maybe that's a bad gig. I'm sure he has lots of brilliant gigs.
Yeah, because that is the thing about him. Like, obviously, he would be the go-to now for the butt of the jokes. If you're like, oh, you like clean, you like, he's got the man drawer and all. But a lot. He's obviously great.
It's very good observational comedy. It's very like you, Jerry Seinfeld.
Yeah.
Who works clean and does that sort of observational humour.
But then I think the thing with Seinfeld too is you can tell he still absolutely loves it, even though
he does.
And he still goes out and you can see him in clubs, and he pops in to do stuff, and you love to see that. And but then I think it must be hard too whenever everybody knows you and expects you to be, like, at least with us, like a lot of. Like, you get that no one really knows who you are, so if you can have a good set, you can say what you want, you can do what you want. There's not that, and I think when you get to that point, it's like, because when Peter Kay came back, like when Peter Kay was at his pomp, you're like when I was growing up, you're like, he's unbelievable.
I loved him.
And then people are going, oh, he's playing he's playing a spade and all now, and they're like, it's crap. And I think maybe it's just off the time. It's maybe not crap. It's just maybe
of the time, yeah.
And he is definitely. For many clips, and again, it's because of social media, you see it shared out where he's like, really, he's not maybe dealing with a heckler like you would in a club. He's just being like, right, get out, and he stops the whole thing, and it's just a bit awkward for people until it's like, I'm not doing anything until you go. Right. And then everyone's kind of like, oh.
Yeah, so he got a bit of stick for that.
Yeah.
But, I'm sure he tried to deal with it and all of that before, and then eventually it was just, this is going to ruin the show, we'll get them out.
Yeah. And then, of course, you have Kramer from Seinfeld. How he dealt with a heckler, which was not great. That was not great.
No.
But then that, thankfully, because of that bit, Dave Chappelle did one of the greatest bits of all time, being like, would I be offended by racism? But at the same time, I'm looking at at him as a comic, going, "You'll get him next time," and you go. It's one of the funniest bits, but yeah, sometimes you just, that's what I think. Sometimes you're not in the mood.
Yeah.
You know, you're out and you're like, oh, fuck. Again, it's always the kids. They always just suck the energy out of you. It's always, you're like, oh my God, they've stressed me out. Like my 5-year-old cut the front of her hair off the other day, and I'm going, why'd you do that? And again, it's my fault because I left scissors out, apparently.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Well, yes, of course.
Yeah, but I didn't. But they were beside my bed, so I took the blame.
Yeah.
I put the hands up, and she's just like, she has lovely curly hair. She took. So now she's like, in fairness, she looks like a total hipster because she's got almost like a perm with just a fringe, you know. So she's very, very fashionable, but not for a 5-year-old, and you need to tie the hair up.
Yes.
So you know, I had to go and do a gig after that, and I just, you know, when you have to tell her off, but you're stressed because you're like, not only do I have to tell you off, but also you've ruined your lovely hair, and you look like and you're like, oh, let's go and be funny now. Like, sometimes you're just like. And when people say stuff, you try to go, haha, very good if the heckler. But a lot of times in your heart, when a heckler says something, you're like, oh, God, so fucking shut up. That was stupid. Shut up. What made you think that was funny? And you can't do that. You'd be like, what did you... And people are like, oh, look at him. You know, so you have to be like, it's funny banter. When you're in your mind, you're like, what a fucking idiot you are. You know, and then Peter Kay's probably like, I don't need to be here. I can just be in...
Well, yeah.
I can just be in my mansion with my feet up, you know. So, I don't know.
What's the worst heckle?
The worst... Yeah, I don't think there's necessarily a worst individual heckle. I think the worst is if people are just talking and not paying attention, right. And then it just distracts people, and then you're going, they don't give a shit that I'm here.
Yeah.
You know, they're just having their own conversation, and
right.
There was, you know, there was a woman a couple of weeks ago at Lavery. She was having her 70th birthday, and she's in the front row, and she's just getting flat out text messages, bing bong, bing bong, on her phone.
Oh, right.
And then, like, I did say, I think I said to her, listen, if your phone goes again, I'll shove it up your arse. Like that. And I've got to land, to be fair, she put it away. But then it was only until I saw the clip afterwards, I was like, oh, that was a wee bit aggressive.
Yes.
Like, and then you think about it, I was like, did I threaten to shove a phone up a 70-year-old's arse? Yeah, I did. But again, because it was in a sort of, it was tied up in the funny,
it was in the comedy, taking his comedy.
Yeah. But again, when I looked back on it, I was like, that was weird of me.
But different if you did it on a bus.
Yeah.
You know, in context, people say, oh, that's a joke.
Yeah, but then, maybe you should bring that in. But I think, thankfully, for the most part, right. But I think the biggest thing we have here, be a lot of people like in Belfast, they're the funniest guy, and they're like, well, no,
right.
I'm the best crack in the office here. I'm the best crack down in the snooker club. You know, I'm the top. These guys think they're funny. Will you hear my joke? You know, like, so a black person, a disabled person, and I walk into a pub, and you're like, oh no, you know. So they're like. They would be the worst because they don't think you're funny because they're like, we're the funniest, they're the worst.
Right, yeah.
You know, but it's all part and parcel. I think thankfully the older and more experience maybe you get, it's okay.
You can deal with it.
But, yeah, and I think people are now more used to it too as audiences, so you don't really get it as much, you know. So it's nice now. Watch me go to Newry on Friday here and have the worst heckler ever.
In Newry?
Ever, yeah. Well, Newry's normally alright. It's only a bit of the jokes, Newry, but I like it. I must say, I like Newry.
I don't mind Newry, yeah. I used to like going to Newry Court.
Yeah.
It was
That's a day out for you, was it?
It was a wee day out, yeah. I've been to all the courts in Ireland. That's how I know the country. I've going to different courts and police stations and custody suites. But yeah, Newry Court was nice. They spent a bit of money in that building. That was quite nice. Strabane Court was awful.
Awful.
Yeah. And it was right beside, there's some sort of like a meat processing plant or something beside the court. And as soon as you get out of the car, you just smelt this thing, and it was just, I thought, God.
And the meat factory smells as well.
Yeah, exactly. That was just my client.
Yeah. But that would be the worst, because again, you're probably judging places where you go on terms of their facilities. You want to go somewhere.
Well, yes, exactly.
Nice.
Like it used to be a clocker court, and that was great. The only problem was if you wanted a cup of tea, you had to go to Ocker.
Oh, yeah.
But you get a fish supper in Clocker, but you can't get a cup of tea.
No.
So, you know, these are first world problems.
Yeah, they're great too. I like the thought of, like, when you go to Crumlin Road, and back in the day, you get sent down, you just right across into the jail.
Yeah.
That was... They'd love to see that rejigged and brought back.
That's tunnels?
Yeah, like, listen, you're gone straight away into the prison. Love it.
It's like the Shawshank Redemption, but
Yeah,
almost
the reverse. Yeah. Oh, you didn't see
different tunnels.
There was a thing this week that's absolutely like, again, this is the sort of humor I really enjoy, because there was a guy who spent 6 years digging a tunnel. I think it was in Mexico, and you know where the tunnel came out? In the staff room. So there's a photo of the dude. He's just come out, and all these wardens are like, "What the fuck are you doing?" He's like, "Oh no, I've done life sentence out of the 6 years digging this tunnel."
You can imagine him just looking at a map and going, and then just turning it around and going, "Oh shit, it was the other way."
But then it's that sort of thing. They're probably like, "Listen, fair play to you for the effort. You know,
Yeah.
they should knock a few years off for stuff like that."
Exactly. He
Fine
tried.
effort, yeah.
God love him.
No, but but I just think, yeah, you imagine you just see the light and you're like, oh, finally. You're like, all right, mate. Oh, no, he's absolutely busted up. But anyway, so you have a new book coming out. August, is it?
Well, in the UK, I have a new book out in July called One of Us is Guilty.
Yes.
And that's about a sort of New York power couple. Mm-hmm. The husband is a aspiring politician running for governor, and his wife, and they come from a lot of money. His father is like a media mogul, and the problem is he's having an affair, and the wife finds out about it, and the affair can be very dangerous for him, and obviously the wife's not too happy about the affair, and the woman he was having the affair with is found murdered, and it's a case of whether or not it was the husband or the wife. Mm-hmm. So it's that one,
and it definitely, from the title, is one of them.
It's One of Us is Guilty. Okay. Yep.
There we go.
So there's no, there you go. It's one of them. And the book, I have a paperback of Two Kinds of Strangers coming out in the UK in April, and it's coming out in America in hardback next week. So I'm off to the States for a bit of a tour.
Oh, nice. And where are you covering?
I start off in New York at the Mysterious Bookshop, which is, if you're ever in New York, you have to go to the Mysterious Bookshop. It's amazing. Mm-hmm. They have the largest collection of Sherlock Holmes books in the world. It's a private collection, but you can go and look at it if you're very nice. And then I'm going to, where am I going? I'm going to Cleveland, and then Indianapolis, and then North Carolina, and then I'll be back to New York and then home. So just a short tour, because I'm going on holiday the week after.
Nice. Where are you off on the holidays?
We're going to Portugal.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
Yeah, good spot.
Bit of a
like
break.
A family relaxing holiday?
Family relaxing holiday, yeah.
Nice. They're always hard to beat.
Oh, I know.
And see, in terms of like your reach, and where do you find like the most, where's your fandom based? Do you?
All over the world. So
Yeah.
the books are now translated into 40 languages. So would be UK, Germany. Like books kill for me, but they're all published at different times.
Yeah.
This is the thing.
Well, I mean,
I lose track.
You're not going to have too many German fans after what we said about the Nazis here
Well, number one in Germany. We're still in the top 10 in Germany.
Yeah.
So, and I'm going on a tour in Austria and Germany in October. I love my German fans. So, and America, and do well in the Netherlands and in Brazil and lots of different places.
And do you ever have a moment where you sit back and you go, it's madness?
Yes, all the time. All the time. So I'll get an email saying, okay, I got an email before Christmas saying, right, we've totted up some figures. So we've sold almost 5 million copies of the books.
Yeah.
No, I'm going, what? It's just complete madness to me.
You know what?
I can't really believe it.
That's over 4 times the population of Northern Ireland, which is mental. You think about it.
It's totally mental.
Every single person in this entire country.
Yeah,
if you acknowledge it as a country, if you don't,
exactly. It's up to you. But I can't believe things like that. It's all total madness to me. I'll get emails and things that we're doing this, and I just go, wow, I can't believe it. I can't believe I get to travel to all these places as well. That's amazing to me.
What was the process of when you decided to write the first book to you being like, okay, I have an idea for a book, I'm going to actually sit down and write it, to getting it published and then actually it taken off? Was it the first book, or did you start to get like a fan base? Was it like book 3 or? It
was the 4th book that took off, really. So the first book I wrote took me about 6-9 months to write the first book, and then
is that like every day on it, or?
That's almost every day on it, and then rewriting it, and once I'd written it, then you can go two ways. You can self-publish your books, on Amazon and Kindle. But the only thing I wanted was to see my book in a bookshop shelf. That's what I really wanted. So you need to get it published through a publisher, and to do that you need an agent. So it was then about another 6 months sending the book, bits of the book off and letters, trying to get an agent. And eventually did get an agent, and once we got 60 or 70 rejections. But once I got an agent, then he sold the book, and the publisher, and my English publisher, bought 3. Said, well, we like this Eddie Flynn guy, so can we have another 2 books? And the guy I write about, Eddie Flynn, used to be a con artist and is now a trial lawyer in New York. So great, I'll write another 2. And the first 3 books, I think in total, was sold about 10,000 copies. And nobody really bought. It's great, but that's like everywhere. That's all over the world. But very few people bought them. We got a lot of critical acclaim. All the books were all nominated for awards. The third one won the Crime Writers Gold Dagger for Best Crime Novel of the Year. But nobody bought them. And then I wrote a book called 13 about a serial killer on a jury, and that sold because I wanted to put like a tagline on the cover, say the serial killer isn't on trial, he's on the jury, and can you put that on the cover? And they went, okay. And people saw that and went, well, I want to read that. And that's how it took off.
That's actually the one. My girlfriend has just finished that one.
Really?
I got her the full, up to Witness 8 for Christmas. She'd read Kill for Me, Kill for You before and loved it. It was her favourite book of last year that she read. And then she just finished 13, said it was incredible because she's loving. She's actually been listening to them like on audiobooks.
On audio,
yeah, and she says it's amazing. She loves it.
Oh, brilliant! Well, thanks very much. That's great. You see, that's the other thing. You don't have to go in and buy. They're all available in audio. Or if you're a Spotify subscriber, you can listen to a book for free every month. So you can just pick one of my books and listen for free.
And do you still like the proper, like, to me, I enjoy getting the book.
I love a book. I like a physical book. Yeah, and I some books I'll read on audio. Particularly if I like the voice. Yeah. So, but mostly I like a physical book.
Yeah, and I see whenever you think about that too, like the tagline on the book, like if you're I always think in an airport, and in a W.H. Smith in the airport, if you see something and that's the tagline, you go, oh, that'll be the one to make you take it, because you're looking at so many now that you're going.
Isn't it mad that is the never judge a book by its cover, but that's
you have to. Sold it. That's what sold it, and that's the only thing you've got. Yeah. That's your real estate and you sort of, because the tagline was good. The other thing that happened was booksellers went, well, that's quite good. So instead of putting its spine on the bookshelf, so you only saw the spine, they put it cover out, facing out, so people could see the tagline. Yeah, and that helped. Little tiny weird things like that.
And then you've Eddie Flynn. You've people like Jack Reacher, Alex Cross. Do you see there being a world where maybe Eddie Flynn becomes on the screen?
Hope so. Yeah, hope so. You never know.
Yeah, because I mean, I that's one of the things that I always think when you're reading the books. Like I'm reading The Cross at the minute. I'm thinking, you could see, I'd love to watch that. That's kind of, I love television and film. I love it, and I think that would be a great. It makes so much sense to, so hopefully.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, that'd be great. So let's see, but it can take a while. Yeah, like it was, Lee Child. It was like Lee was like almost 20 books in before there was a Jack Reacher adaptation with Tom Cruise. And you would think like Jack Reacher, like that amazing movies and one of the world's most popular TV shows. Why didn't they make that 10 years ago? Yeah. And well, they should have really. I
suppose that's it. The Jack Reacher movies maybe didn't get the acclaim as the books did, and then the series came out after. So you're sort of, there's that in it too. And then I think Jeffrey Deaver's got a series out in Disney now as well with his Colton Shaw character.
Yeah, Colton Shaw. Well, but he had a movie made as well. The Bone Collector.
Was that
with Denzel Washington?
That's right. The Bone Collector was a good. What's he called? Reginald somebody, is it the character in that?
Lincoln Rhyme.
Lincoln Rhyme, that's the one, yeah.
Jeffrey Deaver's great fella, very, very funny guy. He used to be a country and western singer and a lawyer, and now writes very funny books. I think there's wee bits of humour in Jeffrey's books which are brilliant, because when you meet him, he's really funny.
Yeah.
He's so funny. He told this story once at an event. He was went out for a first date with this girl, and it was going really well. And he brought her back to his apartment for a glass of wine, and he poured the wine and said, "I'm just going to use the bathroom." And he goes to the bathroom, comes back out, and she's gone. And he's looking around, so what the hell happened? And he's doing research. He's a crime writer, so he has full colour autopsy photos sitting on his coffee table.
Yeah.
She's come home, seen those, and disappeared.
Yeah. So let me just go powder my nose real quick. You're like, what the fuck?
Exactly.
That probably, yeah. But so the new book is out in July here.
Yes.
And available everywhere.
Yes, available everywhere,
Yeah,
and you can pre-order it.
There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been a pleasure. And we're going to I'm going to have an extra steal about a half hour off you here.
Good.
And go over to Patreon to further the chat. But as far as this episode goes, Steve, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed. Thanks for having me.
It's been a laugh. So yeah, we'll carry this on to Patreon. Johnny, I know there's a couple more questions which we'll save for that. And it's been an absolute treat. So yeah, if you just follow the links down below, we'll add all Steve's links into the podcast notes. And it's been an absolute pleasure. Cheers.
Thanks so much.